Well, hey, Angel fans, and welcome back to Halo Territory. I am Mike DiGiovanna, former LA Times baseball writer and host of the show. And in an effort to incorporate the perspective of fans on Halo Territory, we brought back Breezy Nolan and Tyler Rios, who have both been on the show before. Guys, welcome back. How you guys doing today?
Doing great.
All
Another
right.
beautiful.
So Breezy,
Yeah,
Breezy is a longtime season ticket holder and fan. They're both in their early to mid 30s, so that'll give you sort of a time reference. Tyler is also the assistant coach, an assistant coach at Orange Coast College. So let's get right into it, guys. A lot has changed in the last two and a half weeks. Trade deadline came, and geez, it was seven big leaguers went. Seven big leaguers traded for nine prospects at the trade deadline by interim GM John Mozeliak. And a week or so later, all three pitching coaches, including highly respected veteran Mike Maddox, were fired. First question for both of you. I will start with you, Breezy. On the scale of optimism and pessimism, what are you feeling right now in terms of the short-term and long-term future of this franchise?
I think that this was a good strategic move on Artie's part, to give people like a little bit of hope for the rest of the season. I think it was more so just like a business move on his part to somehow generate sales because every game I've gone to this past week, like unless there's a really big giveaway, it is empty in the stands.
Mhm.
And obviously I know that Artie really cares about money. And so I think it was like his way of just trying to get people in the seats. As far as like the rest of the future of the Angels, like I feel pretty much the exact same as long as Artie Moreno is still the owner of the Angels. We're in the exact same position that we were before the trade deadline.
Wow. How about you, Ty?
I mean, yeah, of course, you see some of the trades that happen. It always starts right down on the farm or with the youth of the organization. So, I mean, it's of course nice to see. I think I may have said it before, but it was different. So, of course, different means change, whether that's good or bad. It really doesn't matter. I mean, it's been going bad, so it is what it is. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, with Breezy for sure, as long as Artie's the owner of the Angels, man, I don't know how much better it really is going to get. It's unfortunate, of course, especially from the baseball standpoint, but realistically, it is what it is. We're gonna have to get back to. I mean, some of the young guys, I of course follow all the Halos pages, but some of the young guys are playing pretty well down there, and it's kind of refreshing to see. So hopefully, it's something that comes back and quickly, of course, but at the same time, we've been rushing our players up there, and it's been taking some
Yeah.
time, and people get upset because they don't perform right away. Well, learning baseball is hard, in general. Trying to do it at the big league level, I can't even imagine, right? So
Yeah.
realistically, it's something where, yeah, I'm definitely optimistic, but it's going to be tough, and as long as Artie's
What
at the top.
What are our first impressions of the one guy who did come right to the big leagues, Moises Ballesteros, the Mo Baller? I have to say, he's got a great nickname, and he's only 22 years old. Ty, have you, from what you've seen defensively at the plate, in the box, what are you seeing there?
Yeah, very, very baseball like stature, right? Big, huge
Mhm.
guy. No, not at all. But somewhere, I think if you see him in the box, he has a leg kick. It's kind of big, kind of long. I don't think it's amounted to so many struggles. Of course, he has tons of talent. But yeah, I think it's just from the short sample size that I've been able to see. I try to watch as many games as possible. Sometimes it gets really tough, but realistically, yeah, just kind of big there. He has thrown some guys out behind the plate. I like it. Nice, short and compact there. Great arm. But yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. Like I said, learning baseball is tough. I can't imagine at the big league level to try to get in there and then prove something at the same time.
Yeah.
Show that you're supposed to be here, which we can get into a whole spiral of that as well with the player. But realistically, yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised. He's got a really significant leg kick. The
Hmm.
Cubs were in town earlier this year, and I did not remember that leg kick. I remember him hitting a lot of balls hard, but I didn't remember the leg kick for some reason. Doesn't cut down on it with two strikes either, which is a little
Right.
surprise. Breezy, how you feeling about Mo Baller? Is he the Halos catcher of the future or DH of the future, or maybe both?
Uh, I love him.
Oh,
He has such good energy.
mm,
Um, Definitely on the bandwagon of getting Ohapi out. So the fact that we were able to replace him, with someone of, this amount of talent, I think is really, really exciting. Like Tyler was saying, like I've seen him throw people out, which Logan had a really hard time doing. So that automatically was a win. And the games that I have seen him catch in, the ABS system, like when he has like a pretty good read so far. I don't know what his
yeah.
stats are, but I've been to and I've seen that he's called, he's been right every time, and that I think is a really big and impressive thing.
All right,
And
let's
I would
turn.
be
What?
DH,
What?
and
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah, he's a bat first catcher. And Mark Trumbo, my co-host, and I have talked on a show last week about how his physique will affect him moving forward. He's a big boy. There's no getting around that. I do worry if I'm the Angels a little bit if he's not able to lose a few pounds that he might be limited to only catching 50, 60 games a year. You'd like your
Hmm.
catcher to at least catch half, if not 100 games. I don't think you don't necessarily need to be Cal Raleigh last year, catching 120, 130. That seems a little crazy, but anytime you can have that kind of bat behind the plate, I think as a two-way player, it's going to be a huge benefit to the Angels. So we're going to turn our attention to John Mozeliak, the interim GM. And John had a pretty busy trade deadline, and I want to bring up this tweet that Breezy actually uh, wrote in the wake of the trade deadline. Imagine if this was our GM when we had Shoei. And she's referring obviously to 2023 when the Angels not probably, they should have traded Shohei Ohtani. Man, they could have taken a giant leap forward on the rebuild that they just started. What did you what was behind that tweet, Breezy, and how do we feel about John, Mo, maybe staying here long term? He's what I see is a guy who's making a lot of moves who doesn't look like he's going to leave in December. I don't know. Maybe
right.
that's just me, but would you like to see him stay beyond December in some capacity?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that he was, that's why he came. Like it wasn't for just the rest of the season. I've been hearing that, he was definitely the guy up next in line, and that Albert Pujols' name is getting tossed around to be the GM or to be the manager. And, I don't know. Everything is always talk. But as far as the tweet goes, I was just trying to get a rouse out of everybody. I know there's no world in which anything would have changed as long as Artie Moreno was the owner. And it doesn't matter who was sitting there telling him, like, no, you need to trade Shohei. Like,
Yeah,
he wasn't going to get it. I just, the possibilities are obviously crazy to still think about today of what our organization could be like today if
yeah.
Shohei would did, we would be in such a different place. Um, and so, it always gets a big rise out of Twitter people when you bring. It was an exciting day to see that we had a GM come in and like fully go full throttle. I didn't get to see the interview with Mike Trout, but I saw like little clips here and there where he was like, you know, he came in and he asked Trout, what does he think? And I thought that was really cool. Go to Trout and ask him. He's the only person that's really been there through it all and knows and has seen um, what is really going on. So
Yeah.
I really liked that. I hope he stays.
All right. We're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsors. And on the other side, we'll get Tyler's opinion about the interim, at least for now, general manager.
For the families out there looking for a new path to help your child succeed, take a look at K-12 Powered Schools. K-12 offers tuition-free accredited online public education for students in kindergarten through 12th grade. It's all in a setting that works for your family. And K-12 has been around. They've been a leader in online education for over 25 years, serving over 3 million families with flexible education options tailored to each child's needs, interests, and goals for the future. K-12's dedicated teachers are trained in virtual instruction and they provide real-time support. Hey, we've heard Todd Father on here talk about how his kids have gone through homeschooling and it's really helped them for a family that is very much on the move during his playing career. So you can see how K-12 powered schools can help unlock your child's full potential. Enroll online today at k12.com/FOUL. That's the letter K, the number 12.com/FOUL. K12.com/FOUL.
And welcome back to Halo Territory with Breezy, Nolan, Tyler Rios, and Mike DiGiovanna. Well, Ty, we'll go to you. How are you feeling about Mo as the GM? Would you like to see him stay on in some capacity after his contract expires in December?
I would definitely love to see him stay on, past the contract. I mean, realistically, you could take a look at his, his resume. Again, a baseball guy that understand what needs to be done to succeed organizationally. Realistically, also being able to, have some relation with players. Like, I mean, being able to be the GM with Albert Pujols there, right through the prime of his career, and then obviously, I don't want to say the back end of Trout's career, but later on in Trout's career, being able to be around another player like that has meant so much to the organization. It's something where if you get that type of mind in to the organization, it in a good way infiltrates it, and starts to make it so that we can bring the youth up, bring the prospects up, hopefully have some type of standard. I'm not saying that they don't now, but a different standard in how we do it nowadays. And this is how it's going to be done. That's a huge thing when it comes, whether it's a program in college or, like I said, a professional organization, to have some type of baseball mind like that, to help say what needs to be done. I mean, again, he has experience, he has a resume, he knows what he's doing. So to have somebody, if it's not a first year GM or first time job, it's kind of relieving in terms of a fan's perspective for sure.
Well, speaking of first timers, Kurt Suzuki. You both mentioned Albert Pujols as a potential manager, and we brought him up on the show as well. What are your guys' assessment of Kurt this year? Does he have the managerial chops to stick in the job, or do you guys think the Angels need a new manager next year? Breezy shaking her head already.
Oh, no, I don't want to see Kurt Suzuki be a manager for my team ever again. I think that he is probably a really, really nice guy, and he just seems like an absolute pushover. Um, I've seen the Angels have so many managers at this point, and like the ones who are quiet and almost mouse-like, like the players just seem like they don't really respect them. Um, I also think that now that we're in a full rebuild, like we need somebody who, and as much as I think Albert Pujols' name is getting thrown around, like I do believe that we need somebody who has done this a lot. Like I was excited about Ron Washington, for a lot of reasons, but he is so well respected by players. Like that's what I think that this organization needs if we're going to be in a full rebuild. Like you need somebody that is going to be harsh yet well respected. Um, and I think that that's like a big reason why Zack Neto has probably fallen off a lot. Last year he was really good under Ron Washington, um, who constantly was out there working with the guys. Like I personally do not see Kurt Suzuki doing that in any way, shape, or form. I think they maybe hired him on to help Logan O'Hoppe. That clearly didn't help. Didn't work. So I would definitely like to see our manager be someone who is much more focused on the infield again. I think that it's such a young group of really, really talented guys, and they deserve it.
Tyler, what do you think?
I completely agree. I was a huge fan of Ron Washington. Of course, I'm an infield coach, so that is something where I take a lot of pride in it. Most infield coaches do. To see that, yeah, Breezy, it is something where, now you're talking about like relationship with players, right? Like you said, he's Ron Washington's there. You see Zack Neto kind of sprout a little bit. Of course, Ron Washington is, one of the, if not the guru, of course, for infield play. So, you do obviously have that sense of, all right, now I'm really, going to be able to learn, and it's, as I'm going through the coaching process and things like that, it's about them understanding like what they really can do. I mean, Zach Neto's still a young kid too. I know, we're probably going to get more into him a little bit later, but like I said, you're talking about the relationships that managers and coaches have with their players that really changes the way they go about things, for sure. Like you said, if there's guys that don't put in the work, coaches, players, then yeah, you kind of start to, see yourself fall down into that, slippery slope realistically. But once you get a coach in there that kind of understands how you do it, how you play, how to communicate with you, not everybody's the same either. So understanding how to communicate with you and then understanding how to communicate with your peers and teammates, it really plays a huge factor, into that as well. So, I think that being a first year manager, it's hard to fully criticize, but at the same time, there are baseball plays and things like that I and moves that I personally believe if you're in the game and it, which I know he does, but making the decisions and choices is also hard. So at the same time, now I would love to see somebody a little bit more experienced that can guide these guys and the younger youth through the organization and through the major league process.
Yeah, I've made my feelings about Kurt very clear. And for the record, Breezy is an extremely nice guy. That is not an issue. I feel he's sometimes too nice in terms of the handling of some of the things we saw earlier, especially earlier in the season.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm not sure he's the right guy moving forward for this team. One guy we haven't really brought up his name. You talked about the importance of having a guy who's done it before. I don't know if there's any way to get him out of his contract, but Skip Schumacher, the Rangers manager, is an Orange County guy. Grew up here. I know he loves it out here. He probably, he wouldn't say this on the record. I talked to him when the Rangers were in town last week, not about this specifically, but it's pretty clear he loves Orange County. And if this opportunity were to arise somehow, who knows? Maybe the Rangers will fall flat on their faces and he gets fired. You just don't know what's going to happen over these last few weeks. But keep that name in the back of your head. Now, you brought up Zack Neto. He's been a lightning rod for criticism and praise for criticism for his inconsistent play. And then there's plenty of people who believe he's, a franchise type player, a guy you want to build around, a perennial all-star. Sometimes he's both of those things in the same night. Where do you guys stand on the mercurial shortstop? Should the Angels build around him, or should they look to trade him and continue a pretty significant rebuild by doing so this winter? What do you think, Breezy?
I wore my new Zack Neto t-shirt for this.
So you're a Zack Neto guy, huh?
Yeah,
All right.
I like I was just saying, when I saw him under Ron Washington, it felt like a completely different player. And I also think that his interviews have been really telling with how he's been feeling about the coaching staff, and also the trade deadline. Like these things are, and like what Tyler was saying with the trade deadline and nobody really knowing what's going to happen and where they're going to be. And I understand, like, you have to say, like, oh, you need to be professional about it, blah 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 blah, but like these people got moved up so fast. Nolan Schanuel, Zack Neto, like, I mean, so many of our players have just completely skipped over being in the minor league system. And I don't know, like, I have a lot of faith that if the right person came in and actually worked with him the way Ron Washington was working with him, I think he is someone that we absolutely should not let go of. no way. I think that would be another big like Shohei Ohtani moment. Obviously, I'm not saying he's like Shohei Ohtani, but like one of those where he goes off. It's like a Brandon Marsh moment. There you go. That's a better way of putting it. Brandon Marsh got moved over to the Phillies, and look at him now. Like under the right coaching staff, someone came in this season, saw what he was doing wrong, corrected his swing, and he's crushing it. Like I think that's all Zach needs. And some stability, right? Like knowing that this organization is in a rebuild around him, like what a level of confidence that would bring to somebody. So
Yeah. All right. Should be noted that the Angels did acquire a very good young shortstop prospect in the Soriano deal with the Blue Jays. And
yeah.
Namala he hit a pretty good debut. I guess he got a cut on his hand or something, and he's been out for a little bit. But Tyler, you team Zack Neto or what? Where do you stand on this?
Yeah, oh yeah. So, I don't want it to get it twisted. I know the last time I was on the podcast, it was a little bit more harsh, feel against Neto. That is completely coming from a guy who loves Zach Neto in terms of the way he plays, and what he can bring to the Angels, what he has brought to the Angels realistically. That's it. It's more of we know what you can do. There's a little bit of flash there once in a while, which that's totally fine. But yeah, I think this past season and some of the struggles that he has gone through, nothing too crazy, but of course we could bring up the one big number, right? The strikeouts. It is kind of tough because in I want to say in the college level, at the college level, like we were trying to teach guys to be as consistent as possible, right? So again, I know we're talking about major league level, college level, but realistically, baseball's still done the same way. And if you're really trying to play your game, Zach Neto, I'm not going to say like take the power away. He's for sure a 2020, 2020, 25, 25. Even more than that. But realistically, those come when you have the correct mindset and the correct mentality. Yes, it's probably been tough, more tough this year, because he did have a really good relationship with Ron Washington, and that's kind of gone. So now you're trying to feel out a new coach, especially, think about this, a manager that you actually played with. Right. And now you're playing for. So that's also a different type of dynamic as well. Who knows how they've gone about it behind closed doors. It could be, hey man, I'm your manager now, so we're not this, same, or it could be a total friend relationship too, which may not always benefit the player either. So it just all depends on that. We obviously don't really know much of that, but yeah, I think that he'll look back at it. He wants to be the best at obviously his position and what he does, but every time he steps on the field. So he's going to look back at it and probably make some adjustments. He's capable of it. He came up with the leg kick, when he first got here, and obviously, was shortening it up with 2 strikes, and then he ended up figuring or getting onto something and was like, nah, you know what, I'm going to take it away totally now. So he's capable of making the adjustments. What feels comfortable and what ends up happening is of course up to him for sure.
All right, we can take one more quick break for a word from our sponsors, and we come back, we'll talk a little Nolan Schanuel and Mike Trout.
We have poppin' colors for Mack Weldon here. I've got a little green shade, you've got a nice blue shade, and what else do you love about Mack Weldon, Kratz?
I can be head to toe with Mack Weldon. I have the underwear, I have the shorts, I have the pants, I have the socks. Obviously, we got the shirt and the jackets, but it's head to toe comfort, no matter what piece they send. I even have a belt that looks sick.
And make sure you check out Mack Weldon's AirKnit X fabric to help you out. Their lightest fabric fused with nylon mesh for maximum airflow. Skip the midday wardrobe changes. The barely there feel also keeps you feeling more dry and more fresh. You can browse that collection at mackweldon.com. Don't sweat the heat this summer. Feel as effortlessly cool as you look with Mack Weldon. Go to mackweldon.com and get 20% off your first order of $125 or more with promo code FOUL. That's mackweldon.com, code FOUL.
And welcome back to Halo Territory with Breezy, Nolan, Tyler Rios, and Mike DiGiovanna. Well, I've been catching a little heat the last few days for my take on Nolan Schanuel from last week. I basically said, I think he's a really nice bat to ball skills guy, hits for average, not very fast. He can't be a leadoff guy. I thought, I basically said he'd be a really nice number 7 hitter on a good team that needs a first baseman. And then Nolan goes and have what is a 4 RBI night against the Royals on Friday, and then he has a game-winning hit on Saturday. It's like, we need contact. We don't need all these launch angle guys. And I'm not saying there's not a place for Nolan Schanuel on this team, but I just feel like if he's not going to hit for any power, they need to be upgraded a little. And I did get an interesting comment from a fan on X, and he said Nolan is Casey Kochman 2.0. Now, I don't know if you guys were old enough to remember Casey Kochman. He was a first baseman in the early 2000s, left-handed, as Nolan was. Decent defensive player, not a gold glover, very little speed, very good contact skills, not a lot of power. Koch hit 274 with a 762 OPS in about 5 seasons with the Angels. Averaged 10 or 12 homers a year, 65 to 75 RBIs a year. Nolan, 264 with a 730 OPS in his 3+ years with the Angels, averaging about, he's like a 10 to 12 homer guy with 45 to 55 RBIs. So Nolan has a better on base than Kochman did. Kochman hit for a little more power, but it's a pretty darn good comp right now. And what happened with Casey Kochman? The Angels had a great team in 2008. They knew they needed to get better to win a World Series. They traded him for Mark Teixeira. And, Mark ended up leaving after that year for the Yankees. But I personally thought the Angels won a World Series in 02. 2008 was their best team. They just got cold at the wrong time. I think that team was the best Angels team in history, and they lost them to division series. It just happens. Where do you guys stand on Nolan? Is that an area you feel like they need to upgrade, or if they can build a team around him, is his lack of power a little more acceptable? Breezy, why don't you start?
Okay. I was like, I've gone first every time. Um, I I like Nolan. I don't think he's I don't feel like he's the player that any team is going to um write home about, he is who he is. He was exciting when he first he got on base. What was that, like 28 games, something like that. And there was a lot of excitement around him. Do I wish that he would have stayed in the minor league system a lot longer and developed a lot longer? Yes, absolutely. But for not doing that, I think he's done a great job. Yet again, I think if we get a different manager in there who works with the infield, I think he's going to be um, even better defensively. I think someone like Meckler right now is showing us that, like, you don't necessarily need to hit for power, but man, oh man, is it great that he is so incredibly fast.
Yeah.
That is something that I think that Nolan is really missing. He has little bloopers, but then he doesn't get anywhere. So I don't know. When it was during the trade deadline, it was kind of one of those, if we get something good for him, cool. If not, cool. I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah. How about you, Tyler?
Yeah, Mike, when you had said, oh, Casey Kochman 2.0, I was like, well, they ended up flipping him for Mark Teixeira. So that's one, and then obviously, yeah, Mark leaves, and then I think Kendrys Morales was next up realistically
Yeah.
until the incident. So I mean, I don't dislike Schanuel. I do like the baseball that he does play. Every now and again, he has made some good game-saving defensive plays. I believe one of his web gems was in Minnesota. I believe this
Yeah, the leaping
line
catch to the
drive, bases
liner.
loaded. I
Yeah.
think it was line drive. Jumped up, caught it. Not like he plays some good baseball, but realistically, when you're constructing a lineup and you're looking at where you're going to put your first baseman, it's usually right in the middle of the lineup because he has some thump. But Schanuel is a little bit different. Now, I'm not saying that other types of first basemen, can exist, but realistically, more often than not, when you're looking at your 1B, you're probably going to be driving some guys in and putting some balls over the fence. Not saying that I ever want to, ask for a bad batting average or a low batting average, but at the same time, some adequate defense, some thump in the bat is usually what you're looking for, of course, out of the
Yeah.
1B. So I've said that to a lot of my Angel friends since the day we drafted him. Not that I was ever doubting him, but it was like, okay, we're either gonna have to get ready for a different type of 1B, or we end up going away and trying to figure out what we really do need there, right? So
Yeah.
I would love some more power there at that position, but do like the way he plays baseball for sure.
Yeah, some fans were telling me, oh, he's like John Olerud or Mark Grace or even JT Snow. And I actually looked it up. Those guys hit for more power. They didn't hit,
Yeah.
5 to 10 homers a year. They were up in the
Yeah.
teens and close to 20. So, and JT was a gold glove first baseman.
Mhm.
Moving on to Mike Trout, another sort of polarizing player for not the wrong reasons or anything. It's just this whole debate of whether we, as an Angel fan, would you rather Trout finish his career in Anaheim even if he never made the playoffs, or would you rather see him go to a contender and see what it's like to see Mike Trout play in October again? Because the first time back in 2014, he was still a kid, and it was not a good experience, and I'm sure it motivated him to get back there, and he has never gotten back there. So Ty, we'll start with you this time. Where do you stand on that one?
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna be selfish and say I want him to be here for the entirety of his career. Would it be awesome to see him in playoff baseball? Sure, but not for another team at all. That's how I feel as the fan, right? Like, it's Mike Trout. Unfortunately, it's gone the way it's gone. But hopefully, again, yeah, like, getting better right now may not be in the cards, but yeah, I do not want to see him go anywhere. Of course, everybody talked about Philly, right? And I
Yeah,
get it. I totally understand it, right? But no, yeah, I'm gonna be selfish on that one and say I want him to be
nothing
here for the
wrong with
entirety of
that,
his
Tyler.
career.
How about you, Breezy?
I feel the exact same way.
Oh, all right.
Uh, I think that I have those moments where I think Trout went like 4 for 4, or not. He went 4 for 5 the other night, I think.
Yeah,
And I'm watching. I'm like, I can't wait till like I'm in, my 50, 60, 70, whatever, and I get to be like, watch Mike Trout's entire career. Like
yeah,
that
Hmm.
fan perspective is going to be one of the coolest things that I will get to say about the Angels. Like,
Yep.
sitting through these horrific games, like the silver lining, always getting to watch Mike Trout,
all right.
Yeah.
and I will say, like, I was totally like, just, I don't want to say I was hating on him, but like it was frustrating with how many injuries he was getting over the past 5 years.
Yeah,
To be able to have a relatively healthy year, like, I'm absolutely now going to be selfish and be like, no, I think if he wants to stay, why would we ever want him to go? That doesn't even make sense to
Yeah.
me.
fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, last question. The tarps-off guys. Do any of you know any of these guys personally? If so, what sort of? I've been amazed and quite impressed. It hasn't been as strong this last homestand, but they were back. They've been, some nights they're out there in full force. What has kept this movement going? What are their objectives? And do you guys feel it's having any impact? We'll start with you, Tyler.
Um, I guess there's some type of impact. I mean, obviously it's like it's seen. I was at the game. Um, they were playing. It was a Tuesday night against the Cardinals, and yeah, they were out there and they were going strong for sure. But no, I don't know any of them personally. At least if they're there, I don't know that they're there. But yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I think it's something that's to be seen. Of course, we all want the same thing for sure. You're not going to catch me with my t-shirt off waving it out there, but we all want the same thing. So if they're willing to go out there and try to I guess, rebel a little bit and make a move, then I'm cool with it, man. Definitely, we need some change for sure.
How about you, Breezy?
I was gonna make a joke. Every time I go to the game with one of my dad's friends, he's always like, "Oh, is that, all your boyfriends? Why aren't you up there?" Oh, hilarious. But no, I don't know any of them personally. I do follow the main guy on Instagram and
Oh yeah,
Twitter. I absolutely love what they have started. I think
Hmm.
if I can't even imagine going to the games right now, and like they are the only people cheering. It would feel really eerie, honestly.
yeah,
Like they do a good energy. Um, I yeah, like I think that for the first time in a long time, Angel fans feel like they have a little bit of oomph to it.
yeah,
Um, and because you always hear like, oh, we show up. Our favorite away stadium to go play in is Angel Stadium because it's all of our fans. You hear that from teams, and it's true.
yeah,
It is
yeah,
when I'm in town next week or 2 weeks from now, whenever it is. Like the whole stadium is going to be Yankee fans.
Hmm.
So the fact that we have some of our fans showing up and actually cheering, I'm all here for it. So I hope they continue, and I hope that it makes Artie feel a little uncomfortable.
I think that
I,
is their point.
I personally haven't seen him at a game since it started, so I think
Wow.
that's a good.
All
Yeah.
right. Hey, that's going to do it for us today on our Angels Fan Forum episode. Tyler Rios, Orange Coast College assistant coach, Breezy Nolan, longtime Angel season ticket holder and fan. Hey, thanks for joining us. Thanks for your input today. Thank you guys for listening, for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Halo Territory.
If you made it this far, you'll love this next video. Check it out right here. And make sure you subscribe to Halo Territory for more Angels coverage like this multiple times a week.